Magic the Gathering is having another controversy because Wizards of the Coast cannot go a month without having a controversy. If it's not $1,000 for 4 packs of fake cards, then it's 6 card booster packs for $250. If it's not 6 card booster packs for $250, it's, oh my god, they've turned Aragorn black, even though I look more like Aragorn than the new art. Or if it's not that, oh no, now you're being called racist for using the term tribal instead of typal. That's right, they're changing words on cards and meanings that have been around for over 20 years because, oh my goodness, racism. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol. Why is the background red? Because red is my angry color, because this makes me angry. Let's get into this bogus new article about a completely and utterly unnecessary change about Magic the Gathering. Before we do, I want to thank all of you guys that sent this article to me, started talking to me about this. I mean, this was on my radar. The moment it happened, I was like, oop, gonna cover this. And yeah, all of you guys have gotten to know me well enough to be like, yo, Leon, you covering this? Yes, I am. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into the article itself, I want to give a shout out to the Tilting Turtle, another Magic the Gathering content creator. She is awesome. She's been on my podcast. Follow her, subscribe to her. She is great. But she says, not a single person I've played Magic the Gathering with, of all backgrounds, have complained about the word tribal to describe a deck. This feels like a manufactured issue, the product of oversensitive imaginations. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The scary thing is, now everyone will say tribal is an offensive word simply because wotc, Wizards of the Coast, has told them the word is offensive. Well, they stopped to think why no one found it offensive before, and she is exactly correct. For those of you that do not know, if you're in the know, Magic the Gathering has several different types of decks, and a tribal deck is a deck that uses creatures, mostly or entirely, of the same kind. Whether it's a deck of all goblins, all elves, all dragons, all dinosaurs, it is a tribal deck, because you're a tribe of goblins, a tribe of dinosaurs, so on and so forth. There's other deck types, but basically tribal is one of the most tried and true. Your boy here actually loves his goblin tribal commander deck, and they are getting rid of the term tribal because it's so offensive and calling it, get this, typal. Let's get into the article. Now, this is from MTG Rocks. MTG Rocks is, in fact, a shill Magic the Gathering website. I've used them as sources plenty of times and always point out the complete and utter shilliness of them. That being said, they do occasionally post a good article. Core MTG mechanic is being renamed after 30 years. That is right, folks. 30 years of it being called tribal since the inception of Magic, and now it's just out the window because people just can't stand certain words because it hurts their fifis. Forget tribal decks. Typal decks are now the name of the game. Does typal not sound more racist to anyone else? Like tribal has a specific meaning. Again, not only in Magic, but just in general, tribal has a meaning. And let me tell you, it's got no negative racial connotation when you don't use it with racial You can make anything racist if you try hard enough. I'm sure there's a way to make like Monty Python and the Holy Grail racist if you really needed to, but the people doing that are the ones who are obsessed with race, the morons that just have to look at everything through the socio-political lens because they can't fixate on anything else because their lives are so easy they need something to scream about on the internet. Typal to me actually sounds more offensive. Ever since Magic the Gathering was first printed back in 1993, creatures have always had a type associated with them. Adding flavor and mechanical complexity, creature types have persisted for 30 years, with many becoming deeply synergistic at the time. As a result of these synergies, themed or tribal decks have become incredibly commonplace in MTG. And again, yeah, tribal decks are one of the most common, and if you're new to Magic the Gathering, it's probably one of the first type of decks you're going to make is a tribal deck, because it's very easy to sit down, learn the game, and be like, okay, I want to make a deck that's entirely elves. It's just a concept that's easy to wrap the head around. So yeah, no kidding, it's commonplace in MTG. With the right support for premier sets, themed MTG decks can often be remarkably powerful. Decks themed around humans, soldiers, elves for instance, occasionally even make waves in competitive formats. Yeah, elves, mono green elves is incredibly competitive, like at the tournament scene. There's several other types of decks are, but that's the one that just pops off the top of my head. But, you know, your boy's a tribal fan. I love tribal decks. I've only got one right now, but I love tribal decks. For the most part, however, themed MTG decks have their home in the predominantly casual-focused Commander format, which is a new format when you look at the overarching life of Magic the Gathering. So no, this is not where they mostly make their home, but whatever. We'll go with what they have to say, since this is a shill website. They must know all. Thanks to the variable power level of Commander, themed decks are incredibly popular as they allow players to express themselves. Due to this popularity, it didn't take long for this type of MTG deck to be given a nickname, Tribal. That is not what happened. It had been called Tribal decks since well before Commander was a thing, so they already don't know what they're talking about. This is called MTG Rocks, but Tribal decks have been a thing for literal years well before Commander. For literal decades, players have been using this terminology. Exactly, for literal decades. But Commander's only been around for about a decade, maybe a little over a decade now. Magic's 3 decades old, so how can you say, the nickname Tribal came from Commander, you morons? In 2023, however, that's all changing. Tribal is out and typal is in. Ooh-hoo-hoo. Isn't it so great? After 30 years of a word not being problematic, we're going to go ahead and change it. Kind of like how they did with Dungeons and Dragons and decided to take the word, race out of it because, we're going to use species instead because the word race is inherently racist. Or they're taking out, mixed races because mixed racing is bad. You can't be a half orc anymore. We're taking out the term half. Half is just so offensive. That word half, that stuff that's half of half and half that you put in your coffee. Oh my god, we can't have that connotation with Dungeons and Dragons. Earlier this week, MTG's lead designer Mark Bongwater released an article titled Lessons Learned Part 4. Oh, if they're going to title their article Lessons Learned, it's going to be good. Tell me, Mark, what have you learned? What lesson have you learned considering nothing needed to be changed in the first place? I'm sure this is going to be some sort of white privilege, or a white guilt, self-aggrandizing. Oh, we're so sorry that the community was not welcoming to anybody else other than white people, even though that was never the case. Show me a black person that's played Magic the Gathering, or an Asian person, or a Latino person, Latino, not Latinx or Latinx or whatever, because that's not a thing. Show me someone who's been playing Magic for 30 years, saw the word tribal, thought, that don't sit right with me, that's racist, but I'm gonna keep playing this game because I enjoy it. That was not part of the conversation. Maybe it's been part of the conversation in relatively recent years because a bunch of activists have taken over every nerdy hobby in existence. You can't watch a Marvel movie without activists. You can't play a card game without activists. You can't buy Final Fantasy 16 without activists because there's not enough people of color in the game. How dare Square Enix be so racist? That's what's going on. So yeah, maybe people in recent years have had problems with the term tribal. That's because they're not actually Magic the Gathering fans. As you might expect from the title, this article detailed a lesson learned by Wizards while designing MTG sets. Considering this is the 4th article in the series, this wasn't seen as anything out of the ordinary. Upon reading the article, however, several MTG players were quick to point out an unexpected detail. When recounting the design of 2017's Ixalan set, Bongwater didn't use the nomenclature tribal when discussing the set's factions. Instead, Bongwater used the word typal, which is obviously rather out of the ordinary. Thankfully, despite obviously being different words, typal and tribal are the exact same thing in MTG. And yes, at the end of the day, they are technically the same. But the reason for the change is the problem. You guys know I hate the term woke. I think the term woke is overused tripe. I only use it when there's no other possible word. But this is the epitome of woke. Changing a word, tribal, to typal just because it might, in some fringe group, have some sort of negative connotation because you got nothing better to do when the word has been the same and has been fine for 30 years is the definition of woke. Does it change the game? No. But what does it say about our culture? What does it say about the individuals you're feeding? Oh, don't feed the trolls. Well, you're feeding the trolls. These types of individuals that are just clamoring for these changes, all 12 of them, they're the trolls. Yet people like me are going to be looked at as the trolls for being upset about this. People like me are looked at as the troll for being upset about Black Aragorn. No. Guess what? Lord of the Rings has black characters. Use them. But no, they decided to race swap what would have been a black character and make him white, and then take the white character, make him black. That's not doing anyone any good. Maybe just keep the characters the way they are to honor the legacy. We're not trolls. We're paying customers. This is not okay. This is very indicative of a failing culture that you think is real. But let me tell you, Marky Mark, Twitter ain't real life. They're both words to describe archetypes of creature types. Since those words can be used interchangeably, it begs the question, why the change? Well, we all know why the change. Thankfully, alongside using the new word, Mark Bongwater did just that, revealing why Wizards is changing their wording slightly. We've stopped using the word tribal in research and development as numerous consultants have stressed that it carries negative connotations. There it is, bing bang boom. Oh no, the word's a racist word, even though it is a completely normal, justifiable word you would find in the dictionary. It's not any sort of slang. It's not like calling somebody, any sort of slur. It is a word with a definition that can be used in regular everyday conversation. So why are you changing it? Why are you actually making problems when there are none? That is actually racist, Wizards of the Coast. So we now use typal to mean creature type mattering mechanically. Alongside the major reason from Wizards, it's worth noting this change is also to help clear up some confusion. For better or worse, tribal is the name of a deeply popular, although unlikely to return, MTG mechanic from Future Sight. Yes, but the reason that mechanic was called tribal is because it worked with tribal decks. If you have first of all, these are very rare cards. Not rare as in like expensive or hard to find, but they were not very much printed. They've not really been reseen. But you had like tribal goblin enchantments. You had tribal elf spells, things like that. You want to know why they were called tribal? Because they only worked with that tribe. I mean, yeah, you could put them in other decks, but their effects wouldn't do anything because they weren't, in that. If you have a tribal goblin card in a deck for humans, the card can technically be there, but it's not going to work because it only works for goblins. So it was called tribal insert, creature type here to let you know it is for this type of creature. It's not confusing in the slightest, and like you said, it hasn't been reprinted. It's unlikely to return. Future Sight. Do you know how many new players don't even know what Future Sight was? Your boy here actually has one particular tribal, and I might have two tribal Future Sight cards in my Goblin Commander deck because they work really well for the deck. But other than that, dude, no one plays with these cards except, like you said in Commander, the most casual of formats. So don't give us this excuse that, oh, it's confusing when 99% of these players, okay, maybe not 99, but when so many players don't even know what it is. They always think of tribal as, oh, a deck built around a very particular creature type. But oh no, tribal merfolk is apparently racist to mermaids. I guess we can put it right up there next to Black Ariel and the Little Mermaid. Disney and wotc, what you got in common? Since typal is now its own thing, this should hopefully help clear up any confusion between those topics. Unexpected, but not surprising. Fair enough. Considering that, on social media, the use of the word tribal is hardly the most complained about topic. Exactly. This may seem like an overreaction. It is. It's important to keep in mind, however, that Wizards of the Coast is a corporation at the end of the day. Yes, a corporation that's been doing wrong after wrong after wrong, whether it be, again, selling $1,000 worth of 4 packs of fake cards to $250 worth of packs of just 6 cards, to, I don't know, sending private detectives, private police to an MTG player's house, to doing the March of the Machines Aftermath, which was really just more March of the Machines, but they didn't want to sell you it in one particular set. They wanted to split it in half, that way they could charge you for it twice. Wizards of the Coast has controversy after controversy after controversy. So yes, they are a corporation, but they're only making things worse by adding fuel to the fire with moronic decisions like this when no one was even complaining about it. You are a moronic corporation because you have now created a controversy where no one was talking about one before. Due to this, Wizards needs to maintain an ideally squeaky clean public image. Yeah, well, good luck with that. You've already screwed the pooch years in a row. Do you know how many people have given up on Magic the Gathering just because of Wizards of the Coast and Papa Hasbro? Dude, my DMs are filled with people that loathe Wizards of the Coast or have moved on to alternatives. Do you know how many content creators have come on my show or have talked to me about coming on my show to talk about their other projects that are alternatives to Magic the Gathering or D&D? Dude, it's so incredible to see all these individuals being like, yeah, wotc screwed up, I've moved away. Your boy wants to move away as well. I love Magic the Gathering, but I loathe Witches of the Woke. Subsequently, it's better to replace seemingly innocent yet arguably outdated terminology before controversy sparks. But when you do that, you create the controversy. You morons. In the grand scheme of things, this move is nothing new, as it's hardly the first self-censorship in MTG. The game's art, for instance, oh yeah, don't get me started on that. They've self-censored their art multiple times when, once again, no one was complaining about it. No one was saying anything about it. And if a few 12, 13, 14 fringe morons online do say something about it, tell them to kick rocks. It's not a problem to upset 12 or 13 people, especially if all the rest of your thousands of customers will buy your product. But now you've taken someone who has been a, not really lifelong customer, but someone who's been a paying customer for about 15 years now. I haven't bought sealed product in 2.5 years because of what you've done. And I'm not the only one. There are multiple people that used to be customers that are not customers now, all because of moronic decisions like this. Just completely outlandish business decisions that burn your old customers because you kowtow to this idiotic image of self-censorship that no paying customer wants to see, because the reason we're paying customers is because we like the way things are, so we will keep buying things if they stay the same. The more you change it, the more you take away from it. You burn your customers that have been giving you money for up to 30 years since Magic has just had its 30th anniversary. For instance, has been tweaked, even banned by Wizards of the Coast on numerous occasions. The most prevalent example of this can be seen on, or rather not seen on, cards from some of Magic's earliest sets. In 2020, Wizards elected to remove the art of cards with racist art and imagery from the Gatherer. Explaining this decision at the time, Wizards emphatically stated, "There's no place for racism in our game, nor anywhere else," alongside promising to do better in the future. Yeah, because that's what you always, oh, we promise to do better in the future. You're still a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I'm sure you're not going to do anything better, but yeah, go ahead and change your profile picture on the internet to some rainbow colors. That way you can appease the homo community, the alphabet people, who are very nice people, by the way. Again, I say homo as a joke because that's what Wizards thinks of you as. You're just the homo community, the people who will spend money when you change the color of your flags and your profile pic, but then go to their Middle Eastern accounts and guess what? They have not changed a damn thing, because you, that community they're trying so hard to get the gay dollars from, will be thrown off a damn cliff if you were in Saudi Arabia or something, just because you like to suck dick, which is not okay. You know what? I don't want to see some Saudi Arabian people people throwing homos off cliffs. That's wrong. But I also don't want to see Wizards of the Coast changing their profile picture to pretend they stand with gay people when really they just want their gay dollars. Thankfully, in recent years, Wizards of the Coast has not repeated this specific past mistake. That being said, however, Wizards hasn't completely stopped self-censoring artwork. No, they have gotten worse about it. Most recently, this happened with Secret Lair art of Stonecoil Serpent. Oh yeah, because a drawing of a devil had a dick, if I remember right, because that's so offensive. Magic the Gathering can't have a secret special card that almost no one's gonna own anyway that has a 2D drawn cartoony penis on it. Dude, you realize the game is like a bloody, gory, high fantasy game. I don't think a drawing of Satan's dick that was as big as my pinky nail was really that big a deal with the graphic, gruesome images you have on some of your cards. I remember in second grade, my second grade Christian teacher she thought those cards were just the devil. Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic, it was banned in our school because, oh my god, it's so satanic. You're not doing anyone a favor by self-censoring like that. People are going to have these preconceived notions anyway. Granted, this was well over 20 years ago, satanic panic, all that. It's not the same now. Nowadays, they openly put LGBT stuff in schools and try and teach fourth graders how to suck dick, but that's a story for another time. Personal preference. At the end of the day, while Wizards of the Coast has changed their terminology, there's no mandate that you have to do so as well. This was stated by Mark Bongwater in a recent blog post. What language you wish to use is a personal choice. It's a personal choice now, but what happens when somebody at a tournament, one of these activists, gets upset because you say tribal deck, and they go to a judge and say that you're being racist, and they kick you out of the tournament, they disqualify you, because you decide to use the term tribal in front of someone who wanted to feign upsetness, feign being offended. It might not have happened in Magic yet, but it happened to Pokemon. I covered it, and I was very upset when I covered it as well. Somebody at Pokemon nervously laughed when they were asked for their preferred pronouns because they weren't quite sure what to say, because they were a 15-year-old kid, and they got disqualified for being offensive. And you know what? If it can happen in Pokemon, it can definitely happen at a Witches of the Woke tournament event, here as well. There's no reason to believe that. So when you say, yeah, you can use it, it's your personal choice, how long is our personal choice? How long before somebody who paid their hard-earned money to build this deck and put the time into it and went to the tournament scene and was ready to try and get it and qualify and get to the big leagues, they get DQ'd from a tournament because they use the word tribal around a freaking activist? Subsequently, if you don't want to change the language you've been using for decades, there's no pressure to do so, again, for now. Just don't be surprised when you see typal popping up on articles from Wizards from now on. Guys, this is an absolute joke, and the reason it's a joke, like I said, it doesn't technically change the game. You know what, that's all well and good, that's fine, but what does it say for our culture when these corporations are so afraid of 0.2% of Twitter, which isn't even a real place, that they are self-censoring and changing what people who've been the paying customer for up to 3 decades love? That is not a good way to corporation. It is also not a good way for society to exist. Oh no, we have to walk on eggshells around every single word. We have to change every little thing that we possibly deemed as offensive. Oh my god, I've got Billy Idol records hanging on my wall behind me. Well, Billy Idol has talked about his song Rebel Yell, and the reason he called it Rebel Yell is because he thought about the Confederate flag. Oh no, a British person thought the Confederate flag was a rebel yell, and now he named a song after that. Cancel Billy Idol. Billy Idol's a racist. You freaking morons. Those are my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments below, or let me know on Twitter where you can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. Also, watch our episode of the Countercast tonight, where this will also be brought up, as well as many other subjects. Disney, Star Wars. We will have None Like Joshua, as well as a few other guests. It'll be fantastic. But those are my thoughts and opinions. I love to know yours. Remember, it's all here in the Nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.